You ever look at a job description and just think, who on earth are they actually looking for? It feels like this impossible checklist, right? Designed to filter out, well, basically everyone. But what if I told you that long list of requirements isn't random at all? What if it's actually a secret blueprint? Well, today we're going to dive in and crack that code.
Oh, yeah, we've all seen them. Those job postings that seem like they're looking for a superhero who also happens to be a time traveler. You're scrolling through, everything's making sense, and then bam, you hit a requirement so specific, so completely out of left field, you start to wonder if the hiring manager is just building a fantasy work league. It's really frustrating, and honestly, it's easy to feel like you'll never measure up.
But here's the thing. It's not just a random wish list. There's actually a hidden logic, a whole system at play here. Buried inside that wall of text is an architecture, a really carefully constructed blueprint that defines not just what you need to do, but who you need to be to get the job. And today, we're going to map it all out. So let's try something. Let's stop seeing this as a wall designed to keep us out and start seeing it for what it is, the architecture of the role itself. Think about it. Every single requirement is like a brick, and each one has a very specific purpose in building a stable, functional, and reliable position. And just like any good building, it all starts with the foundation. I mean, before an employer can even begin to think about what you can do, they need to know you're officially allowed to even be there. This first layer, it's all about establishing your legitimacy and building trust. This foundational core, it's built on just a few key pillars. And their whole job is to signal to the world that you are a legitimate, recognized professional. You can think of these as your official ticket to get in the door. First up, the degree. Now, we all know it's way more than just a piece of paper. A degree signals that you've gone through a process of structured learning, that you've developed some real cognitive discipline. It's proof that you can commit to a long-term goal, and it really helps to form your professional identity. Next up, the license. For some jobs, doctors, lawyers, even electricians, this is completely non-negotiable. A license is basically a legal key that unlocks the door to a regulated field. Its main purpose? To protect the public and to make sure that the person doing the work is totally accountable and meets a super strict set of standards. So, how do employers even know your degree or your training is the real deal? Well, that's where accreditation comes in. Think of it like a quality control stamp. It means some independent group has checked out your school and verified that it meets a recognized standard. It's a critical trust signal for employers, so they know your credentials are valid. So, the whole point here is that this foundation isn't just about red tape. It's a system that's designed to build trust, to make sure everyone's following the rules, to signal your legitimacy as a pro, and, maybe most importantly, to reduce the risk for the employer. Without this solid foundation, the rest of the job architecture just falls apart. Okay, so with that foundation of legitimacy in place, we can move up to the next layer of our architecture, the substance. This is where we get into what you can actually do. And this brings us to one of the most confusing parts of any job description, the difference between experience and skills. Let's break it down. Experience is about what you've done. It's the know-how you've picked up from being in the real world. Skills, on the other hand, are about what you can do, those specific, repeatable actions you can perform. So experience builds your judgment, while skills are the tools you use to get the job done. And this layer of substance, it's reinforced by a few other things. You've got your hard skills, those tangible, measurable abilities like coding or data analysis. Then there's training, which is how you formally level up those skills, and a certification. Well, that's the official stamp that proves you have a very specific, specialized capability. It makes your skills visible and verifiable. These are the real building blocks of your proof. So, we have our foundation of legitimacy and our substance of capability. But let's be real, with hundreds, sometimes thousands of applicants, how does a company even begin to narrow it all down? That's where the next part of the architecture comes in, the gateways. These are the filters designed to manage the flow of candidates. And this is how it works, like a funnel. At the very top, you have the baseline. These are the absolute rock-bottom requirements for safety or legal compliance. If you don't have these, you're out, no questions asked. Next, you have to clear the minimum, which is the lowest acceptable level of skill they'll consider. And finally, if you make it that far, you have to pass the gate itself. That's the interview, the technical test, the portfolio review, which is the final checkpoint before you get in. So the absolute key here is understanding the difference between a need to have and a want. The need to haves are indispensable. They're tied directly to the core function of the job and, you guessed it, managing risk. The wants, or the nice to haves, those are just desirable extras. You won't get disqualified if you don't have them, but they can be what sets you apart from the other qualified candidates. Knowing this difference is everything when you're focusing your application.
All right, so we've mapped out the foundation, the substance, and the gateways, but why? Why does this complicated and, let's face it, sometimes frustrating system even exist in the first place? Let's zoom all the way out and look at the final blueprint to really understand the grand design. The source material we're looking at sums it up perfectly. This isn't just a jumbled list of qualifications. It's an integrated taxonomy of professional identity, access, and operational reliability. I know, that sounds super academic and a bit heavy, so let's break down what that actually means. In simple terms, this entire architecture is a huge balancing act. It's designed to make sure that the people who get hired are not only capable, but are also the right people to do the job safely and effectively. It's all about creating a workforce that's both competent and completely trustworthy. So why does this system exist? Well, to cut down on risk for everyone involved, to create clear, reliable signals of a candidate's quality, to make sure the people we rely on every single day, from our surgeons to our engineers, are reliable and safe. And, in a perfect world, to create hiring standards that are fair and consistent for everybody. It's a system built on logic, not just random whims. You see, understanding this blueprint is incredibly powerful. It demystifies the whole process and gives us the language to talk about what's working and what isn't. So the question I really want to leave you with is this. Now that we can all see the architecture, how do we use this knowledge to challenge the outdated requirements, to build more inclusive pipelines, and to actually design better, fairer jobs for everyone?